started. Good afternoon, everybody. Just going to give it a couple more moments before we get started, just to make sure we get everyone onto the program. I never know at midday whether or not to say good morning or good afternoon. I suppose it's good noon, isn't it? But we've got quite a few people just jumping on over the next couple of minutes. I hope you're all well. You're having a wonderful Wednesday. Just give it a minute or so longer before we get the ball rolling. Right. Okay, so it's 12:02. Let's get kicked off. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Jamie Garrett, and welcome to April's series of our webinar program, where we will be discussing apprenticeship units. Let me just share my screen, and then we can don't have to look at my happy smiling face anymore. You get to look at all the information that I've got prepared for yourself. So yeah, if you don't know me, my name is Jamie Garrett. I'm the head of sales and marketing here at Peter, and today we are going to be talking about apprenticeship units. Obviously, following on from the webinar that we delivered last month, talking about all the reforms and changes that the government putting in place in regards to the apprenticeship programs. I would ask that there's no AI recording of the webinar. Primary reason for that is this is a mix of confirmed content and then a range of views from Peter and shared speculation from industry bodies. So it's important that we caveat all the information with the current thinking is or the proposed policy is. All the information that comes through the government channels can be quite convoluted and some of the information challenging to disseminate. So it's important that everything is taken as is. Questions, pop the questions into the Q&A. And then what we will do is we'll pick them up at the end and then address them one by one, or alternatively, you can get in contact with me directly or your account manager here at Peter. So let's just quickly touch on what we covered off last month. Last month, we talked about the government reforms. We talked about the realignment of apprenticeships and the apprenticeship and skills levy by the government. Obviously, that was all in and around catering for the future skills strategy, which now falls under the Department of Work and Pensions and not Department of Education. In a very simple summary, we now have Skills England, as we can see from the slide. They've replaced IFATE, the Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education, and it's got a much broader remit to address the skills gaps across the country, especially those skills gaps that align with the UK industrial strategy. What they have done in a very, very simple and summary is reform the apprenticeship levy. We now know that contributions will only be retained for 12 months from April the 1st, with none of that 10% top up from the government anymore. They've reformed the co-funding. So any levy payer now falling out of the levy will have a 25% co-funding, and then the co-funding for SMEs is either set at 5% or reduced significantly to fully funded for younger apprenticeships. They have defunded level 7 standards for over 21s, as well as defunding a range of actual standards themselves, including the leadership standards, which we touched on. Peter delivered, obviously, the level 3, the level 5, and the level 5 coaching. They've all been deemed as expensive, and now the government is redistributing that financial balance to make sure it's driven more towards entry-level employment. They've created foundation apprenticeships and driving more level 2 entry-level programs. We highlighted last month, Peter is going to be looking at offering the level 2 administration apprenticeship very, very soon. But there's now a range and a real strategy behind driving into the younger generation and the NEET catchment of potential employees for the future. They've ramped up the incentives quite significantly for the employment of younger apprentices. So now there's a range of incentives available for recruiting those apprentices. They now are stackable. So there's up to £6,000 per apprentice incentive available to you later on this year. And as well as that, they have launched the units. The launch of the new apprenticeship unit program is really designed to address the skills gaps in current employees and support skills and knowledge of development without having to enroll onto a full apprenticeship program. And that's really what we're going to be spending some time this lunchtime talking through in a bit more detail. So the big question is, what are the units? What do we know, and what don't we know yet? Because we still don't have all the information. However, we were reassured we would have it. The government are being a little bit hesitant about releasing that at the moment, and I think it's very much about getting it right first time, which I'm a big believer in. So it's going to be interesting to look at that. So we still do not have guidance on hours or funding. What we do know is that the apprenticeship unit program is only going to be available for employees within your organization of 19 years or older. The content is specifically designed for employees, not new starters. So you cannot enroll onto a unit program whilst on an apprenticeship. And the first wave is a collection of 8 units, which I'm going to dive into a bit more detail on this webinar. The delivery of units will run between 30 and 140 hours, which equates to between 5 to 20 days, obviously varies depending on the unit. And they are fully funded, 100% funded for both levy and non-levy paying organisations. So you won't need to dip into any commercial budget to enrol onto a unit-based programme. Obviously, the differing units will have differing funded bandings, just like apprenticeships do. And the different delivery, there is a significantly different delivery model to apprenticeship. So we know there's no learning and development coach that's required. There's no off-the-job hours that's required. There's no guided learning hours. There's no portfolio. It's just based upon delivery hours alone. In addition to that, there is no endpoint assessment. The assessment at the end is a simple skills test that is developed by the provider and validated by the employer. So to pass your unit, you need to complete a skills test to demonstrate your competence for the unit itself. Now, the government is taking its time on setting the guidance on hours and setting the guidance on funding. The current thinking is that there's kind of concerns that the launch of the apprenticeship unit program could potentially imbalance the savings that the government have made on some of the defunded standards. And obviously, Skills England do need a percentage of these savings to drive into entry-level apprenticeships and growing the entry-level apprenticeship program, which is obviously part of their skills strategy looking forward into the future. So that's the current thinking at the moment, but we are expecting to get that information in the next week or so. But what we do have is information about the apprenticeship standards themselves. So let's move on to those. So the apprenticeship standards themselves, wave 1, or the first wave as we know it, all the content for each and every one of the units will be based upon modules drawn from current apprenticeship standards, and they will be focusing on the knowledge and the skills of these modules. So as we know, apprenticeship standards are built up of knowledge, skills and behaviours. The units won't be looking at the behaviours, but they will just be looking at the acquisition of knowledge and the acquisition of skills as part of a training programme. The content for each and every one of the standards will be drawn from a range of apprenticeships between level 2 and level 5. And when we look at each and every one of the standards in a moment, I'll give you an example where they've been drawn from multiple different standards to create a unit, which is really, really interesting. And the initial content of these waves is very, very much aligned with the government's industrial strategy. So wave 1, we know there's an apprenticeship unit called AI for Leaders. We also have the electrical charge point installation and maintenance program, electrical fitting and assembly and mechanical fitting and assembly, permanent modular building assembly, solar PV and maintenance, welding and battery manufacturing. Each and every one of all the training providers across the country have looked at this, but the government have made a decision that they will only invite strong providers to be delivering these programs. To be a strong provider, you must be currently delivering the programs, you must not be at risk, and you must be considered a strong provider. We're really, really proud to announce, I think you guys probably know already, that Peter have been invited to deliver the AI for Leaders program. We've been invited to deliver the electrical fitting and assembly, the mechanical fitting and assembly, and the welding programs. To be fair, that's what we expected. And what's interesting is the other ones obviously fall outside the classic remit of what we deliver as an organisation anyway. So we are now currently exploring the developmental models, the delivery models for each and every one of those programs, obviously dependent on funding and delivery hours. Each and every training provider is looking at this and want to make sure obviously it's commercially viable for us as an organisation to be delivering it to you. But we're confident that the government will formulate a structure that will be so. Otherwise, there's not going to be many training providers who are going to be keen to pick up this and run with it. So let's have a look at those standards. So not those standards, those units of those 4 units, and we'll break them down looking at them one by one. Let's start with welding. So welding is known as the welding mechanized unit. It's drawn as from the source has been level 2 apprenticeship units. Who's it for? The apprenticeship unit is for existing employees who, with support of their employer, need to upskill to mechanized welding. The learning outcomes very much about demonstrating competence with health and safety, how to prepare welding materials in your working area, how to check, set and operate welding tools and equipment, carrying out welding using appropriate mechanized process for different joints and configurations and positions, and identify defects and apply visual inspection. It's very much going to be an introduction to welding for individuals that need to learn how to weld but don't need to be fully qualified welders. Validation and assessment of the welding program is obviously to pass a skills test to demonstrate they've acquired the knowledge and the skills set out in the unit, as we've mentioned. And the welding is one of the only units that will contain an approval certificate. It is an ISO 14732 welding personnel approval of welding operator accreditation, which is quite important. And the technical knowledge is drawn from 13 knowledge-based mapping areas and 10 skills-based mapping elements. So that's kind of an overview of the welding. Our current thoughts in around the welding, what it's looking like when we look at the knowledge and the skills of that welding standard. It falls quite reasonably similarly in line with the current commercial City and Guilds level 2 programs that we have delivered here at Peter in the past. They have been built of 10 days delivery. So we are making I suppose a bit of a guess in regards to that being something reasonably similar. Our current plans at the moment, if they do shape up to look like that, is to offer them to run them twice a quarter. And we will offer one as a block, as a 2 week solid block program, and then the other one within that quarter as either a day release or possibly 2 days a week over a 10 or 5 week time frame, all within that same quarter. So our plan is to run between 2 and 4 cohorts a quarter, give or take. And what's important is we will be able to deliver these as either MIG, MAG, MMA, or TIG. What's important is what we will probably do is start to lean into each and every one of these disciplines, because we can only really teach one discipline per cohort, dependent on the requirements of you guys, the customers out there. So we will start to shape each and every one of these cohorts as we start getting the demand coming through. And obviously all dependent on hours of funding. We are hoping to launch this unit program by the end of May 2026. So not a very long time frame. And again, this will be very much shaped by the inquiries and demand of what you guys require. Who do we anticipate to be the target learners for these programs? Our first consideration, I think, is your engineering maintenance teams or your maintenance teams in your organisation. That kind of patch welding requirement is hugely beneficial. within organisations. So anyone who's completed the old MOE apprenticeship standard at level 3 or any kind of similar type of engineering apprenticeship, this is going to be hugely beneficial to those individuals. If you've got any employees looking to start their career journey as a welder, this is a really good introduction process to that. Or any employees within your organisation, engineers or similar, who are looking to cross-skill their capability to benefit your organisation. It's going to be a really, really good introductory process into welding and give individuals the capability and competence to undertake an element of welding within your organisation. So that's the welding unit. That's the information we've got on the welding unit at the moment. Let's have a look at the electrical fitting and assembly unit. The electrical fitting and assembly unit, again, is drawn from the level 2 content of our apprenticeship units. And what it really is it's existing employees that need to upskill in electrical fitting and assembly. So the learning outcomes, again, very health and safety. It's all about interpreting electrical based specifications and drawings and technical documentation. It's about planning and organising electrical fitting and assembly activities. It's about using the appropriate tools and equipment, wire routing and terminate a range of electrical cables. Safely carrying out electrical fitting and assembly activities and conducting testing during and after electrical fitting. And then I think just as importantly, identify and diagnose faults and electrical fitting and assembly activity outputs. Now, what's interesting in regards to this is there is no accreditation on the back end of this process like we did have with the welding one. It's all about the acquisition of knowledge and skills to be able to go and undertake a job role in electrical fitting and assembly. If you look at the technical knowledge levels, it's very similar to the welding, where you're talking around about sort of 10, 11, well, there's 11 knowledge-based mapping elements for this unit and 9 skills-based mapping elements for this unit. So if we use that as a potential marker, I think you're possibly looking at a similar type of timescale. Our current thoughts at the moment is the content is drawn from the level 2 engineering operative standard, and there's real opportunity here to cross-train all past apprentices in the pathways they didn't study during their apprenticeship. So typically when engineers undertake an apprenticeship program, they will need to lean either into an electrical or mechanical discipline. Anyone who has lent into the mechanical discipline can then undertake this unit to cross-train into the electrical discipline. Again, our plans are to run maybe 1 or 2 cohorts a quarter, dependent on the demands. And that, again, dependent on hours, depending on funding, we're hoping to launch sort of mid-summer, give or take. What's great about this, as I mentioned, all past apprentices on both level 2 and level 3 engineering standards who took an alternative pathway, mechanical, this is going to be hugely beneficial for them. Any mechanical engineers out there who are looking to cross-skill, who are looking to grow their competence, who are looking for investment to grow their skill sets, this is a brilliant option for them. Or anybody, any delegate who's attended the PETA Introduction to Basic Electrical course or any of the Practical Skills for Engineering courses, again, this is going to be a really great addition to grow that skill set and that competence in electrical fitting and assembly. If we move on to the third one, the mechanical fitting and assembly, very, very similar to the electrical one in regards to who this is for. This is obviously for the other side of the coin. These are for individuals looking to upskill in mechanical fitting and assembly. The learning outcomes are very, very simple. Again, we start with health and safety. We talk about planning and organising, fitting and assembly activities. We're talking about the utilisation of the right tools and equipment. We're talking about measurements and preparation. We're talking about safely carrying out the actual activities themselves, of the fitting and the assembling activities. We're talking about identification and diagnosis of faults. And then we're talking about quality, carrying out quality checks to ensure the requirements are met. Again, no accreditation in regards to this. It's just that validation assessment at the back end of the education piece. And as you can see, the technical knowledge is very, very similar in regards to numbers. 10 knowledge-based mapping elements, 10 skills-based mapping elements. Again, this is a conclusion that we have drawn and not based upon any information the government have given us, but if we use that as a potential marker for the length of time, you might be looking somewhere in the region of about 10 days or so in regards to education. We've got to wait to see what the government give us in regards to guidance on that one. Same in regards to thoughts. It's drawn from the level 2 engineering operations standard again. So the opportunity to cross-train all your past apprentices in the pathway they didn't study, just like the electrical one, is very, very similar. Our plans to deliver are exactly the same, a couple of cohorts a quarter based upon demand, but very much depending on those hours and funding. And it's going to be sort of midsummer or so before we're actually able to look at delivering this. So we'll be talking to you guys quite significantly about finding out who wants to do this, and looking at the size of those cohorts. Who's going to be benefiting? Same as the electrical pathway, but on the other side. We're looking at people who've taken the electrical pathway and looking at mechanical engineers looking to cross-skill, electrical engineers looking to cross-skill, electrical individuals who've attended the practical skills for engineering course who are looking to do the mechanical content. Pretty straightforward stuff. The final unit steps outside of that engineering remit and is quite significantly different. The AI for Leadership unit, developing AI strategy unit, is a level 5 apprenticeship unit. This apprenticeship unit is for individuals or aspiring to leadership roles responsible for setting direction, governance and oversight of AI, and people who need upskilling in AI leadership literacy, defining organizational AI priorities and leading organizational change. Obviously, as we all know, AI is a big subject at the moment in business. There's a real need from a lot of organizations out there to develop some kind of clarity in the way that they want to be moving forward with AI within their organization. This program is very much around that. It's very much about working with leaders, about looking at setting that direction, governance and oversight, and helping them really understand and be literate about artificial intelligence and organizing or defining your organizational priorities and how you can lead that change. Very much so. So obviously the learning outcomes are in quite a bit of detail. As again, it's about sort of making evidence-based investment and procurement decisions. It's about the ability to operate a governance framework, all about sort of safeguarding yourself as an organization, overseeing that risk management, which is really, really important in AI as we know. And obviously the ability to lead and coordinate that cross-functional delivery of AI-enabled organizational change is really, really important. And then finally, representing the organizational credibility in external AI discussions with regulators and partners and sector bodies and the public. Obviously, you all come from very, very different industries. There's lots of different influencing stakeholders that may be interested in your instigation of AI in your organization. There is no accreditation as part of the unit. As you can see, again, the validation assessment is a skills test that demonstrate the acquisition of the knowledge and skills. But what is interesting is the volume of technical knowledge and the volume of skills. As you can see, there's 15 knowledge-based mapping elements and 14 skills-based mapping elements. So it's quite a significant amount more that you are acquiring in regards to knowledge and skills by undertaking this unit and this program. How we view this, our thoughts. What's really interesting is the content is drawn from 3 different apprenticeship standards. So back in December 2025, the Level 4 AI Practitioner Apprenticeship Program was launched. This is a standard that Peter are currently exploring at the moment, potentially for a early 2027 delivery. But this content is drawn from that standard, but as well as that, the currently retired Level 6 Chartered Manager and Level 7 Senior Leader apprenticeship standards as well. So as you can see, there's going to be some quite technical knowledge in regards to the AI practitioner stuff, but obviously it's very much about that governance and that strategic development drawn from those 2 senior leadership programs. We see it as an opportunity to develop your organizational AI strategy. I think there's a real opportunity to create your AI champions within your organization, both on a practical basis and a strategic basis. Again, we're aspiring to look at 2 cohorts a quarter. And we have yet to determine how that will be delivered, because again, it's very much dependent on hours, very much depending on funding. And again, we're looking to that for a sort of summer launch, give or take. Obviously dependent on the hours and funding that we hope to see released in the next week or 2. Who do we see as our anticipated target learners? The obvious ones are your IT leaders. They will be the individuals tasked with developing your AI policy within your organization. But in addition to your IT leaders, the type of language and communication and risk and governance that's involved in your AI, we strongly believe that your strategic and operational leaders should also be looking at this, because they will be exploring how they can leverage AI to benefit your organization. So they should be looking at enrolling on this program as well. You could really consider that anybody in a leadership position should be looking at the implementation of AI to benefit your organization, or anyone in leadership or anyone in IT who's considering that level 4 AI practitioner apprenticeship standard. It's still obviously a very young standard at the moment. It's only 5 months old. So I think there's a real opportunity that you could potentially look at this standard, this unit first. If you're looking at sort of a 10 or 15 or 18-day delivery program, it's a really short form education piece that can really start to shape whether or not your commitment to a level 4 AI practitioner program moving forward in late 2026 or 27 may be the right pathway for you. So they're the 4 units that Peter are looking at. Our conclusions based upon what we understand so far. I think we think the units are a good thing. We really do. In the challenging reforms that we've received over the last couple of months, utilizing units to upskill key skills is a positive thing. Historically, you'd have to lean into an apprenticeship program to do that. And obviously, apprenticeships had potential barriers. If you consider off-the-job hours, the portfolio, the length, the commitment, the units address these and circumnavigate them. It's all about addressing a skill and a knowledge-based piece of delivery. And we see this as a very, very positive thing. The units are quite limited for now, but we do know there's a second wave coming. We are aware that the England GTA, who we are a member of, were consulted on the fitter assembly units. And originally they were supposed to come out as assembly and maintenance, and we know they've been split, with the assembly coming out in this wave and maintenance coming out in wave 2. So we know there's an electrical and mechanical maintenance units coming out in wave 2. We've yet to be notified when they are, but current thinking is somewhere in and around the back end of the summer or early autumn. The first handful of waves, and we're confident there will be a number of waves, will certainly orient in and around the industrial strategy. Now that's going to be quite interesting to see how diverse that starts to span out as we progress on in time with the delivery of waves. We are hoping this is going to open up significantly more, but realistically, a lot of it is designed around the industrial strategy at the moment. Whether or not, there are rumours at the moment of lobbying into the government where elements of the leadership apprenticeships could come back as units. But if they do at all, it won't be expected for 18 to 24 months, realistically. There's no way that the government are going to shut down those apprenticeship programs and bring them back within 6 to 12 months. It's very, very unlikely. As I mentioned, only strong providers are invited to deliver on apprenticeship units. The real positive thing for you as an end user is you really can take confidence in the provider delivering, because they are considered strong by measurements by the government. And we believe that there are more organisations that weren't invited that were invited. I will caveat everything I've just talked about with dependency on delivery hours and funding. They've got to be commercially viable to deliver for training providers. We believe the government clearly want to get this right first time. They were burnt significantly when they closed down the level 7 programs, and that's why they're taking their time over it. I think that's quite key. The next steps that we're looking at the moment, we have on Tuesday, the 21st of April, between 9 a.m. and 11:30 a.m., we're hosting an engineering focus group. We're really, really interested to explore the knowledge and the skills content on the welding and assembly units. We're really interested to explore the best ways of delivering these for you, our members and our customers. If you're keen to be part of the early adopters on those engineering standards, so those engineering units, so the welding unit, the electrical fitting and the mechanical fitting. We'd love you to be part of this engineering focus group. We'd really be interested to hear your views. We'd be very keen to get some engineers in the room and talk about how it could be practically delivered. We will be looking to do something very similar for the AI for Leaders program in and around the May time. So if that's something you're very keen to sit down and have a conversation with us about, then please feel free to reach out. As we did with the last webinar, Georgia will send you out a feedback form. We're really keen to understand your views on this. Excuse me. If you want to register your interest for future learners, detail it on the feedback form, and then obviously we'll keep you appraised with as much information as we possibly can as we get it. Another shameless plug, we do have a peer group, a collaborative peer group coming up on the 29th of April here at Access Point in Cosham between 9 AM and 11:30. And that's a collaboration program between ourselves and Bisco's, where we'll be delivering a range of talks and a talking head session at the end. And it's free to attend and includes breakfast. So, win-win for everybody. I'll ask Georgia to put a link of that in the chat. But I guess that's kind of the content. Should we go to questions and see if there's anybody got any questions? Let's have a look at the Q&A. Okay, so Linda's asked, could one employer attend twice if they require different types of welding? Excellent question, Linda. I don't know is the completely honest answer to that one. If you're going to put me in a corner and demand an answer from me, my gut instinct would lean into no. It's very unlikely you'll be allowed to be double funded, but we can certainly go away and find that out for you. But that's the only question that's popped up in the chat. Is there anybody else that's asked anything in the chat? I don't think so. So if nobody's got any further questions, I hope this has been really beneficial for you. What we will do is as soon as we get a guidance on the hours and as soon as we get a guidance on the funding, we're going to send that out in an email to let you guys all know, so that you can really start to look at your levy and really start to look at your budgeting process and see how that kind of works. Robert, sorry, if you wanted to ask a question, I don't think we've actually set up this webinar to be able to listen to you guys, but if you want to whack that in the Q&A, I'm more than happy to answer it. Yeah, but what we will make sure we do is as the information comes out, we will get that out to you and communicate with you nice and clearly. And as I mentioned, we're very keen to get as many of you and just as importantly, your engineering leaders as well into that workshop next week. And then anybody interested in the AI program into the workshop that we're going to be doing in May. To make sure we can really talk about how it's going to be delivered, look at that content in a lot more detail, make sure it's relevant. Some of the thought processes we're currently exploring in and around the AI program is actually to start to deliver cohorts leaning into industry. So how could we look at the AI for Leaders program for engineers? How could we look at the AI Leaders program for HR or for health and safety? There's lots of different leans we can really apply that into about how you can apply AI for your area of your business or the industry that you work in. So again, we'd be very keen to get as much feedback and register your interest in how that would work, and we'll do our very best to support you guys. Robert's asked, are there any entry requirements to these units? The simple answer is no. There are no entry requirements. The only entry requirement is you've got to be 19 or over and employed. Now, the one thing the government have made very clear is you've got to have at least 50% evidence of learning off the program. So let me give you an example. When we enroll an apprentice, we have to demonstrate learning. If they are way too experienced and they won't learn on an apprenticeship program, the government won't fund it. The government have made clear that there has to be 50% of learning on this. So that is going to be an interesting, we have yet to see visualization of how that is going to be mapped and whether or not that is going to be lent into the training provider to understand the mapping process of that, or whether that is going to be driven by the government itself and the clarification by the government itself. When you say employed, is there a requirement? Would 0 hours contracts cover this, please? At the moment, 0 hours contracts do define an employed individual. There has been no guidance on the volume of hours of an employed individual. So at the moment, I would say probably yes. But Emma, what I'm actually going to do is go away and clarify that for you, because that's quite a key question. So let me come back to you and we will drop you an email out directly for that. No problems whatsoever. Great. I've really hoped this has been helpful, guys. We're going to plan to do sort of one of these each and every month, just to help you guys in guidance, because I know it's quite a turbulent release of information that we're getting at the moment. So I'd love to be able to sort you as much as we possibly can in regards to this. But like I said, please feel free to reach out directly to myself, one of your account managers. George will get an email out to you. Be very, very keen to get your feedback in regards to this and anything else you guys want to know. Or if you want to register individuals onto the early adopter programs that we're planning to launch from May and into the midsummer. Awesome. Thanks very much, everybody. I look forward to possibly seeing you guys either next week at the focus groups, or we'll see you guys at the end of the month when we have our collaborative peer group. But until then, I hope you have a fantastic Wednesday afternoon, and I wish you the very best. Have a great day. Thanks. Bye now.